All right, welcome. Today I'm going to be talking a little bit about the Attio SDK, something that they've released recently and I'm super excited about. So first off, if you're new to what an SDK is, it stands for a software development kit, and it allows for building native apps inside of Attio. And in general, it just allows, it's a kit that basically makes it easier for you to interact with a particular service. So in this case, the SDK is something that lets us interact more easily with Attio. They have the REST API, but the REST API is mainly focused on just the back-end model. So updating records, creating lists, things like that. Whereas the App SDK lets you build apps that are native directly inside Attio. So I'm going to just run through some of the docs here and break down the ideas, the core ideas of the SDK, what it allows for, and feel free to ask any questions in the comments. So first off, the SDK, they have these entry points. So this is how you can trigger your app to run. So these are the various ones. You can have a record action. This can be on a company or a person record. You have the bulk record action. So imagine you have a list of companies and you want to map their locations. You can select all of them and do a bulk record action. This is a widget. So when you're actually open to a page, you can have this widget show up. And then this is last one is the text selection. So if there's transcripts, you can select some amount of text and then do something with that in an app. The big thing that the SDK is built around is forms. So you'll see a lot of these components here: button, checkbox, combo box, form, inputs. It's very helpful for building forms. You know, Attio has intentionally made it a limited set of components to use here, but what they have is very useful for building forms of various sorts. So going into some of I guess they have what's really nice. I've been using the SDK. They have like this schema validation. They have queries. This is separate from the form stuff, but there's a GraphQL API that you can easily run queries. So when somebody, imagine we have a record action, somebody clicks a button, you can run a query to get information about that object, if that's a person or a company, and then pass that in to a server function where you're sending that data to the server to do something else with it. So just, I guess, zooming out a little bit, we have the record actions. This is how you trigger the app to run. You have the components that you can build things with. And then you have some of these things that will let you manipulate data. So GraphQL, you can have, you can use the queries here, and then server functions are another thing that you can use, which lets you run arbitrary server code on Attio's server. So it's nice they have things that, for example, like you don't have to worry about managing your API keys because you can use their connections that they have built in. And then some other things, I guess, besides that are good to know is that there are events that you can subscribe to. So imagine you have an app that is syncing data between two sources, and you want to set up that initial sync, and you want to set up a new list where all that data is going to sync to. You have these events when a connection is added. When you listen for this connection added event, and when a connection is added, meaning like the API key, it can go ahead and set all that stuff up for you. So the person doesn't need to do anything to their workspace. You can basically have that done automatically. So you have the structure in place for that syncing to happen. You can also do things, clean up things on connection removed. Webhooks, this is a big thing. So like I was talking about syncing, you can make it so that not all the apps need to be interactive in Attio. They can be something that runs in the background. So you can have an app if you're trying to sync, do enrichment data for a company. Say there's something you want to figure out, okay, how many Twitter followers does this company have? You can build an app that just uses these webhook handlers and receives updates when the number of Twitter followers on the company updates. And so there's not anything you actually need to do in the UI. You just download this app, and using webhooks, you can receive data and update the state in Attio. The last thing, this is new, but a KV store. So this is basically lets you persist data within your app between sessions. So if a user has something they want to set, like you want to have remember, like for example, you might have a invoice that you send and you choose a currency. You want the app to remember, oh, I chose to send it in this currency. You can use the KV store for that. So that's basically an overview of the App SDK. As I said, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Feel free to put them in the comments. Thanks.